we suffer more in our imagination than we do in reality. Those are words of wisdom from the Stoic philosopher Seneca. And it brings up this question: where are our problems? Where are your problems right now? Can you point to them? Can you hold them? Can you put them in a container? Can you unpack them? Can you see them or hold them or touch them in any way? Or are our problems most often based on our perceptions and our thoughts and our ideas about what's happening in our lives? Well, in this video, I'd like to explore the concept that a lot of our suffering and a lot of our problems simply come from how our mind is perceiving them through the filter of our life experiences, from our pain, our past, our childhood, our conditioning, and how we've been programmed by society, our families, and our culture to think about the things that happen to us. My name is Ed Hegan. I'm a former New York City firefighter, and now I work as a mindfulness, meditation, and breathwork guide, helping veterans and first responders to free themselves and release some of the pain that they've been holding on to from a life of service, so they can find inner peace by learning to regulate their emotions, understanding their nervous system and how our brains and bodies work and respond to stress. And Stoic philosophy can be a really valuable tool to help us to understand how we suffer. And we're going to discuss how mindfulness, meditation, and breath work can be a tool that we can use when we find ourselves caught up in our monkey mind, overthinking, stressing, anxious, feeling overwhelmed, stuck on the edge of burnout, personally and professionally, and how we can use these tools to regulate ourselves, bring ourselves back into our bodies, connect to the present moment, and find some inner peace. So, a lot of the experiences that I've had, and most human beings have had, is suffering. There is inherent suffering in this life experience. To be born into this world is to suffer. And we know this. But the choice on how we suffer can oftentimes be up to us. So if we think we're a hapless victim and life is happening to us and we have no control over what's going on in our lives, we can oftentimes feel overwhelmed, like things are out of control and there's nothing we can do about it. But when we recognize that we're going to suffer either way, we can either choose our suffering or we can allow suffering to happen to us. I'll just give you an example. Let's say you decide, I'm just going to eat crappy foods and I'm not going to work out, and I'm going to allow myself to get toward the edge of being overweight, out of shape, unhealthy, just all of the suffering that comes with not putting in any work or discipline to be healthy. Well, you're going to suffer. You're going to suffer with feeling crappy from the foods you're eating. You're going to suffer from being overweight and feeling like crap mentally, emotionally, physically. Maybe you'll develop diabetes and be on pharmaceuticals, and just your quality of life is going to diminish. So you're going to suffer. Now, you can also choose to say, I'm not going to eat that crappy food. I'm going to choose healthy foods. I am going to go to the gym. I'm going to do that run. I'm going to push that weight. Now, when you choose to do those things, you will suffer, because exercise in some ways is a form of conscious, intentional suffering. But one of them you choose as a suffering to bring you health, vitality, strength, flexibility, stamina. And the other suffering you choose to neglect yourself also leads to suffering. But it's more of an unconscious suffering because we're avoiding doing the work necessary to face that discomfort intentionally, with purpose, by design. And this is a subtle shift because either way we're going to suffer. So the question is, how are you suffering? Are you suffering well? Are you suffering in a healthy way? Or are you suffering as a hapless victim? That life is just happening to you. And poor me. I am a victim of this, that, and the other thing. I refuse to face those things, so I'm gonna suffer. Or to say, hey, those things happen to me, but I wanna learn about how I can rise to the occasion, accept those challenges, and suffer intentionally to build my body, my mind, and become strong and healthy, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. So once you get to that point where we accept that suffering is simply a part of life, then the question is, how do you want to suffer? How do you want to choose your suffering? And this can draw us back to the understanding of the mind. Because just like we go to the gym to exercise our body, to be strong, flexible, have stamina, strength, endurance, we can also train our mind to become those same things. Flexible, have stamina, have resilience, have the wisdom necessary to handle the challenges that life throws at us. So when we recognize that we have the capacity to exercise discipline to keep our bodies physically strong and healthy and our minds strong and healthy, well, oftentimes we're taught how to do a pull-up or a push-up or run. But we're oftentimes not taught how to develop the mental and emotional muscles necessary to face life's challenges. And that's where the Stoic wisdom comes in. That when we are suffering in our imagination because the stress in our lives feel overwhelming, we can recognize that as a sign, just like in our body, that there's some inflammation. And so these emotions that are coming up are not negative things that we should want to get rid of. We should not aim to numb and distract or ignore or bypass the emotions and the feelings and the stress. We can imagine these things like the indicator lights on our car telling us that our engine is overheating or that we need an oil change. And if you ignore those lights, you can cover them up. You can pour alcohol on them or try to give them some food and just distract them with some pleasure. But it's not going to change the fact that you need an oil change. It's not going to change the fact that your engine is overheating. So when you start to recognize that emotions and stress are signs and signals, this is not something to ignore. But we can ask ourselves, what is this pain? What is this suffering? What are these emotions and feelings trying to communicate to me to help me learn a lesson about how I can live a better life? And when we embrace our feelings, when we embrace our emotions as signs and signals, we can see them as gifts, not as threats that we need to ignore, hide, numb, and distract ourselves from. And in those ways, we can alchemically transmute those feelings, those emotions, as something that we see as negative to get rid of, or something we can embrace and say, thank you for introducing me to this lesson, what I need to learn, what I need to face. And oftentimes, well, I'll speak for myself here, I was never taught these things. I was not taught these things by my parents or people in my life. When I became a firefighter, I was taught how to help people that were going through a really difficult time, that were facing their worst nightmare. I was taught how to cut people out of a car, break down a door, drag people out of buildings. But I was not taught how to manage the stress that comes with carrying that weight of constantly showing up to face other people's problems. And then when we internalize these things, we can carry them around and they can build up and become pressurized inside of us. And then we're looking to relieve ourselves from this pain. But no one ever taught us how to properly understand our emotions, how to identify what we're feeling, to know where it lives in our body, to breathe through it, to feel it, to release it, to let it go, and then to understand the lessons that it's trying to teach us so that we can learn to manage our stress in a healthier way. And so, as someone that's going to be 50 years old in a few days, I'm at the realization that although it's not my fault that I didn't know how to express and understand my emotions in a healthy way, it is my responsibility to fix it because no one's coming to save you. And I think we know that. We know for sure that it's our responsibility to take care of ourselves. That's what being a man and being an adult and being emotionally mature means, to accept the fact that no one is coming to save you. And it's an inside job if we want to heal ourselves and fix ourselves and live a better quality of life. No one's going to do it for you. And so when we recognize this, we can also acknowledge that when we're in a certain state, when we are feeling overwhelmed, when our monkey mind is replaying thoughts about things that happened yesterday or worrying about all the things that might happen tomorrow, we have choices. We can continue to engage in this loop of overthinking and continue to just ruminate and chew on all of those negative thoughts. Or we can recognize that our thoughts oftentimes comes from how we're programming our subconscious. And we're programming our subconscious by what we focus on. So if we want to break that loop, we have to break that rumination pattern. We have to break that thinking loop. And that can be challenging because it's simple, but it's not easy. Simple in the concept of like, oh yeah, just stop thinking about those negative things. That might sound like it's a simple solution, but oftentimes just telling yourself to stop thinking, it doesn't stop the thinking. So how do we find a way to manage what's going on in our minds and our hearts in a way that feels like we have a real understanding of how our brain, our body, and our nervous system work? Well, again, this is information that many of us were never taught. It should be taught in schools to children. And we should learn this at a very young age. Just like we would learn how to eat healthy and exercise in a healthy way, it's okay to teach our young people how to manage their emotions in a healthy way, how to be in the spiritual gym, the emotional gym, and do the work necessary, do the reps necessary to build a strong and healthy brain, body, and nervous system, because it's all connected. So if you are one of these people, like myself and many of us, that gets caught up in this monkey mind of overthinking, and you find yourself caught up in these loops of rumination, worrying about all the things from yesterday and tomorrow, what we can do is sometimes just practice awareness. That's what mindfulness is. Practicing simple awareness. Hey, I'm thinking right now. And when you just notice yourself thinking, one of the most powerful things that we can do to break that loop of rumination is to give our mind a task. Because we can't outthink or overthink our way out of a problem. But we can use our thinking mind to tell our body to breathe deeply. And look, I'm not trying to be patronizing or like reductionist and oversimplify this process and say, hey, calm down, buddy, just take a deep breath. No, I'm not doing that. But the truth is that the way that we breathe does have a significant impact on how our brains are working. Meaning, our body is the product of millions of years of evolution, of life. So our thinking mind and the knowledge that we have from the last couple hundred years of modern society is not going to be clever and smart enough to think your way out of your stress. It's not. The only way to do that is to recognize that our physiology is designed to keep us safe. So if our bodies and brains feel unsafe, like there is danger, the way that we can mitigate that is to relax the body. And when we relax our body, our physiology, our brains will relax. If our body is sensing danger, the amygdala is fired up. Someone cuts you off in traffic or says something that threatens you or makes you feel like you're being disrespected. You get to choose. and say, I recognize that my body is dysregulated, my brain is sensing danger and fear, and I can manage and mitigate that by calming and relaxing my body, by using the power of my breath. And we do that by taking some deep breaths through the nose, filling up the belly by using the diaphragm to draw the breath in. Not the upper chest, not here, but lower into the belly. And if it helps, you can put your hand on your belly and you can exhale all the air out of your lungs. And breathe in slowly through the nose and fill your belly. And slowly release, making the release and the exhale longer than the inhale. Inhale slowly through the nose, fill your belly. Slowly release and exhale. You can blow it out like smoke if you want. Let's do one more. Slowly in through the nose, fill your belly. And slowly release and exhale. Beautiful. I know. Having a grown-ass man teach you how to suck air into your lungs and release it. It seems kind of elementary, but the truth is controlling our breath, controlling our state of being, controlling our physiology, controlling our mental and emotional state is a skill that was necessary for us to have. Even if we were out hunting, we would have to learn to be still and quiet and control our emotions and our breathing. Other animals would sense it. It was a necessary survival skill. But in the modern world, we've never been taught these things. So we think it's this kind of hippy-dippy knowledge, when in reality, it really is just a basic survival and thrival skill set that we've never really been taught. So when we recognize this, we can tap into this power and recognize that when our suffering and our imagination, like Seneca said, is creating this monkey mind and this thinking loop that is unhealthy and causing us stress, we can simply stop, recognize that, and take a deep breath. And I use a method that I developed that I find really helpful with the veterans and first responders that I work with. And the method is called the SOS method. And SOS stands for stop, scan, and surrender. And what that simply means is when you notice that your monkey mind is on fire and jumping all over the place, stop, scan your body. Where am I feeling tightness, tension, and stress? Is it in my belly? Is it in my chest? Is it in my throat sometimes? If it's anger, if it's sadness, it's usually in my belly. What am I feeling? You're observing how you're breathing and what you're feeling. And then breathe in and surrender. Let it go. Let that shit go. Stop. Observe what's going on, how you're breathing and what's going on in your body, and surrender. Let it go and release it. SOS. Keep it simple. So when we start to recognize that we don't have to suffer when we're caught up in that mind noise, that our imagination, our fear about what could happen down the road, and we're projecting these ideas about how someone treated us or what's going on in our world. When we recognize we're stuck in this mental loop of noise that's creating stress and friction, it can dysregulate us so much that it can ruin our health, compromise our immune system. And stress is just as dangerous as smoking or drinking or any other unhealthy habit. So managing our stress by stopping, becoming more aware of what's going on in our bodies, and then letting that go in a healthy way through the power of breath is such a powerful way for us to practice self-care and love ourselves. And people sometimes think like this thing about self-care as being like a selfish thing, when in reality, self-care is the most selfless thing you can do. You love your family, your kids, you love your job and what you do. That's great. You want to show up as the best version of yourself when you do that work? Yeah, so do I. Me too. So when we practice self-care by practicing mindfulness, meditation, breath work, keeping our brains, our bodies, and our nervous system regulated, this is the gift that we give to the people that we love. This is the way that we show them that we care, by showing up in a way that we can handle, manage, mitigate, and face any of the challenges that life throws at us. And although it's not your fault that you become dysregulated, again, as adults, it is our responsibility to fix it so we can show up in our lives as the best version of ourselves, as parents, as brothers and sisters, as professionals, as people that serve their countries and communities. The people that call on us deserve to have us show up as the best version of ourselves. I mean, if you're in an emergency situation and your house is on fire or something's going wrong in your world and you need to call 911, who do you want to show up? Someone who's anxious, on edge, dysregulated, out of control, and overwhelmed? Half drunk, hungover, dehydrated, inflamed, overweight? Or do you want someone who is grounded, healthy, strong, and showing up with the ability to be grounded and peaceful enough to make the best decision on how to manage this crisis? I think we both know the answer. And if you're one of these people that just isn't really sure when you're feeling overwhelmed what to do, just tap into that SOS method. Stop, observe, and surrender. And just practice these deep breaths into the belly as a way of beginning to practice self-care and to ground and regulate yourself. And start to find and access that sanctuary of inner peace that lives in all of us, if we only take the time to allow it to reveal itself to us by doing the work, doing the reps, exercising the discipline, and choosing our suffering by being disciplined and wanting to be the best version of ourselves. So I hope this video helps. And if you know of anybody that might benefit from its message, please share, like, subscribe, all that stuff, because it helps this channel to grow and it helps us to get this information out there, because a lot of us have not been taught this. And it is a crucial life skill that can help us to just lead healthier, happier lives. And that's my mission, to just spread the good word and carry the message. Because the people that show up to help us in our time of need, they deserve to have someone to guide them and to support them in their healing journey, because they carry a lot of stress for us. And so this is how we can show up for them, by spreading this message, by embodying it and living it. And then we can share that with each other. And you don't have to walk this path alone. If you need help or guidance, you want to learn how to deepen your meditation or breathwork practice, just click the link below and let's connect. You can make a free appointment to we can just sit and talk about these things. I'm happy to sit and talk about these things with anybody that's going through troubles with any kind of substance abuse or addiction, or just feeling overwhelmed or stuck emotionally, mentally, and you're not sure where to begin. At least we can get a foundational understanding of how you can make some changes and make some different choices to improve the quality of your life. So if you're feeling stuck and you're not sure really how to get back on track, just reach out, click the link below, and let's connect. And like I said, share this with somebody that you think might benefit from the message. And remember that practicing self-care is not selfish. It's the most selfless thing you can do. And it's the gift that you give to the people you love. So take care of yourself so we can take care of each other. And thanks for watching.